Welcome back, students. In this section we are going to discuss competency mapping. This is another lecture of MPRS subject, that is Manpower Planning, Recruitment and Selection. And so far in the last lecture we had seen the processes of e-manpower planning, e-recruitment and e-selection. So this is the extended part when the companies select their candidates. It is now a turn to measure their performances. So there is a concept called competency mapping. In this section we are going to learn about this competency mapping, what is its concept and how it is used, why it is important to measure these competencies. So let us understand with the concept of competence. Friends, what is competence for you? What is your competence? What is the competence of MS Dhoni? What is the competence of any sports person you really observe or listen about? What is the competence of any company that is performing very well? So these competences are nothing but the abilities of these persons or the organizations to perform effectively and efficiently. If we talk about companies, the efficiency would be calculated in terms of quality and profits that is earning. In terms of individuals, we will talk about this competence as their excellent performance, which is giving them edge over other competitors. So compete here, we obviously would think about the competition is there and what takes one person or organization to take lead in this competition is the competence. So let us discuss the iceberg model of competency mapping. Friends, when we talk about competence, they would be different with different people, because we cannot standardize these people like we standardize products manufactured on machineries. Human assets cannot be standardized in that term. They are completely different. They are giving you various productivity, and that is why it is very important for the organization that when it selects the candidates, it should fit at least closest to its expectation. Friends, it is not possible for any organization to get the perfect fit or perfect employee for its work. Therefore, it sets various types of filters and selection recruitment processes so that the closest candidate or closest expected competency or the skill that is required for the job can be achieved. So if the organization goes on making these criteria of selection stringent and specific, the more likely it is that the number of applicants would go on decreasing. So that is why when we select the closest one to fit, and then the organizations try to enhance their skills, abilities and knowledge through various processes like training and development programs and various other managerial activities. So when Spencer and Spencer in 1993 published their first book called Competence at Work, they talked about this model which is called as iceberg model. So iceberg model of competency mapping talks about 6 competencies. Those have been derived or identified by them, and they say that these competencies are the ones who really matter at the work, who gives you productivity, who gets affected, who creates or generates results. Let us understand them one by one. So iceberg model, like iceberg, when we talk about the ice, 90% of the portion of the ice is below the surface of the water level and 20% is above. Likewise, so you will never come to know how much is below the water, which is the same concept is being given here, that there are certain competencies which can be seen through various acts. but there are certain competencies which cannot be seen easily, but they are the major drivers for these 20%. So that's why out of these 6, 2 of them are we can say they are the inner drivers, they are visible through various forms like knowledge and skills. So when we talk about knowledge and skills, they are easier to change, whereas social roles, self-image, traits and motives, these are harder to change competencies. Now why this is so? When we talk about knowledge and skills, so knowledge is something that one has acquired over a period of time since childhood to the age of graduation or post-graduation through schooling and college studies. It may be the education and experience got over his past job performances also. So any information or education acquired in a particular area or experience is a knowledge. Knowledge is not limited with the degrees of college and schools. It may be some practical experience that he has got over a period of time through his work and struggle, or maybe sometimes there is a family background which has businesses and the person can know the ins and outs of the business. This is just a small example to put. So knowledge can come to you through various sources. Friends, knowledge and skills are hard skills. Knowledge is a hard skill. Why? It is easy to change. You pick one person, give him the training and course for 3 to 4 months or even 10 days. He will get to know the knowledge. He will get the information. So that is how he can increase his knowledge, which is easier part. So when the organizations are selecting the employees, giving them knowledge through trainings or even the LMS system, that is learning management system, or providing them study material, knowledge is ensured that is being given and it can be enhanced. Skills. What are these skills? So these are the abilities to do something well. These are the reflections of the application of the knowledge. So when a person has perceived the knowledge of, let us say, HR practices. So on the basis of that knowledge, he is now supposed to use that knowledge in the practicalities. That means the person should be able to understand the payroll and take the wise decisions in the related fields. So that means skills are again easier to change. The more the knowledge, the skills can be enhanced. But skills are also something that a person cannot do without knowledge. Sometimes, let us take some examples of excellent skills. Let us start from very closer example to us, and that is, let's go back to our mother's kitchen where she may be cutting the vegetables or onions in a fantastic way. Or you just observe the cooks from the great hotels and the hospitality industry. They will be very fine with their skills, how they cut, the way they cut, the time they take to cut them, or the minimum wastage that they look for is a skill, right? So Excel can be taught to all of the children or all of the students in the class, but the way one student applies that knowledge is different, and that is what we are talking about the skill. So it is again easy because the skill enhances with more and more practice and experience. But knowledge and skills are the just tip of the ice. These are, as we discussed, that easier to change. What is harder to change is the subtleties of the person. These subtle elements are social role, self-image, traits and motives. So let us start with the motive first. Let us go with discussing this first. What are motives? Can you change the motive of the person in an instant? No. So motives are the drivers of the behaviors. They are something which makes a person to behave in a certain way. These motives can be the need for achievement. There is a need hierarchy theory. So, or motivation theory, you can find these things, that need for power, need for influence, need for affiliation is there. So, if the stronger these needs are, the stronger will be the motives, and the stronger the motives, the behaviors will be affected. So, there is ABC analysis, that is the event, or we can say that any behavior, any motive can influence the behavior of the person. So, these motives, can you change them easily? Can you change the need of the person? Because these motives come through various situations that the person has been throughout his lifetime, since childhood up to the current age. And the atmosphere, the value, the beliefs, all these are affecting his motives. Then there are traits, physical characteristics, or the ways to respond or behave are the traits. How a person behaves in particular situation tells about his behavior. So even it considers the physical aspects or physical behaviors, or even the behaviors which are affected by his thoughts. So these are, so often the personality test talks or try to measure these personality traits. What kind of person he is? Is he introvert or extrovert? Is he calm or is he aggressive? Is the personality is bipolar or balanced? So when we are talking about these personality types, they are saying that the introverts behave in a particular pattern, extroverts behave in a opposite pattern, or the bipolar personalities faces maniacs and depressions, and the balanced people are always the rational thinkers. So the thinking attitude is being depicted through these traits. Now let us come to self-image, which is the inner self of the person. That is what a person perceives about himself and others. So what is the person's self-worth and identity in his own eyes? This is where the self-image is there. So it is again harder to change, because it has also developed through various incidences that the person has faced, and those incidences have created some perceptions in his mind about his own self or image. Then there is the outer self, that is the social role. If I understand myself in a particular way, then how I am going to behave. So what will be the social role I will be taking? So that is the attitudes, values that are projected to others. So we can say that, am I going to carry any specific persona to perform my social role, where I find myself in a society, what I would like to become in that society or atmosphere. So this is the social role of a person that he has thought. Now you can see all of these when we are talking about motive traits, self-image or social role. These are hard to identify if you see the person. Person with the knowledge and skills, so if he is depicting his skills, we can see those skills somewhere being applied and the results can be visible. Knowledge is again, at least you can see it on his resume, his mark sheets would be there, his certificates and testimonies will be there. He would talk on the basis of that knowledge. But attitudes, motives, self-images, perception about self and the persona that he wants to carry, that desires are not so visible to the person, and they are hard because they have been built up over long period of time with a person, and that has created the person's personality. That's why we are talking that they are hard to change. So this is the iceberg model. So friends, what you are going to do after identifying this iceberg model, how it is going to help you in the organization? Think of it. Yes, this is the iceberg model. Okay, fine. 2 competencies are visible, 4 are harder to change. Now what? Friends, every person carries these. So can you see the weightage? That is the 80% is the weightage of these subtle attitudes and subtle these competencies. Now how to change and identify these competencies is the next question to the organization. So organization must set up such competency mapping where it can use some benchmarks to identify these more competencies and then work on them. Suitably, it can set some filters that, so that's what we are talking about, benchmarks. That benchmarks will allow to select such people who are having your above expectations, above your minimum expectation competencies, expected competencies. Fine. So when we are talking about competencies, these have to be mapped. There are various methods to map these competencies. Even the 360-degree feedback system can be one of the method to map the competencies, that how a person behaves with the other stakeholders, right? So, how to reduce the competency issues? So, the companies can develop a competency model with the help of benchmarking, then using 360-degree methods. Then they should identify the non-negotiable competencies. Here, for the recruitment or hiring purpose, the organization is supposed to set such criteria which will not be accepted by the organization. So, non-negotiable competencies have to be identified, and then they can develop a program to identify these self-mastery programs wherein the employees would be having a chance to work over these competencies if they are to be enhanced, and align the interventions. That means the superiors are expected here to play a role, and they should give such tasks to these people so that they can enhance their competency. We will be talking about it in the next class. So it is all about the will and skills. So Hamel and Prahlad in 1994, their book called Competing for the Future has talked about the core competencies of the organization, where they said that not a single business event can be enough to be called as a competence. That means not a one quality or one expert area of the organization can give it a competitive advantage, and it cannot become a core competence. So core competence for the organization is a bunch of various qualitative aspects of the organization which all together make it go long in the competitive market. So will and skills, one is outer and one is inner driver. So friends, when we talk about will, it is the motive of the person that drives the skill. So if the person is self-motivated, he is disciplined, he takes initiative, or he depicts other traits for commitments, those will be definitely reflected in the skills. And that's why, see, so here the will, motive, the will is here below the surface and the skill is above the surface. So this whole downside is affecting and giving the results of the upside. So when you see the inner driver, if the person is self-motivated, he will adopt and adjust himself. If he is taking initiative, his leadership qualities would be exercised and can be seen. If he is self-disciplined, he would be punctual at the work. If he is enjoying the work, the punctuality will be depicted. If he is really committed and self-driven, so he would like to give the quality in his work, whatever he is doing. So that is why will and skill formula is effective, and it should be very sensitively handled by the organization, because it's again a complex. Because can you imagine that in any organization, if there are thousands of people, that means there are thousands of personality with various degrees of these competencies, and it becomes difficult for the organization to take them one by one. So it has to set some benchmarks to filter them out or select them in and map these competencies on a regular basis. So friends, I will be again coming up with the next part of this competency mapping. So unless and until I bring you the next management lesson, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.